It's unbelievable today that we now have this panel that's been set up to deal with the past, talking about giving an amnesty and basically calling the last 35 years of genocide a war. Where else in the Western democracy would you ever hear the like of it? The IRA want to be able to legitimise what they did in this last 30 odd years. Well, there's no way we're going to stand by and let that happen. They talk about they were soldiers, they were combatants. They weren't, they were terrorists. They murdered and butchered people. They went into churches, they went into orange halls. They took people out of minibuses and lined them up and assassinated them at the side of the roads. They shot people while they were closing up their workplace. They shot people while they were coming out of their churches. These were terrorists. No other word for them. And an amnesty to the like of these people, and to try and say that it was some type of war they were fighting, is an insult to the memory of our loved ones. And there's no way we are going to stand by and let that happen. These people may never be brought to justice. I don't know if they will or not. But at the very least, we will make sure that there is an attempt made to bring them to justice, to hold them to account for what they did. Because it may be 35 years for some people, but for the individual, for the victims and for their families, it's like yesterday. So don't try and tell us that we must now say this was a war and allow the IRA to be able to justify what they said or what they did over this last 35 years. Because if you do this, what you're talking about is us having to listen for the next 35 years how the IRA fought the British Army, when that's not what happened in this country. The IRA terrorised our communities. They shot the people coming out of their workplaces. They shot the people. Most of the security forces were killed while they were off duty. I wasn't fighting a war. The other thing I would ask them, if we do turn around and say this is a war, where's your prisoners? When is our loved ones coming home that you took prisoner? Because you have got your prisoners out. You have been allowed home. I don't know how many hundred days was released for the Good Friday Agreement. But the only prisoners we have seen belonging to the IRA that they took were left naked on the roads in South Armagh with their hands tied behind their back after being tortured for a number of days. Now, is that a war? Is that how you deal with prisoners? And then you have the cheek to come on and whinge and cry because you were stopped at a road check and harassed by the security forces. But then at the same time, when you kidnap people and brutally torture them for 3 or 4 days, you think you can justify that? Well, we're sending a clear message. This is not from Willie Frazer. This is from the victims in the South Armagh area. And I can't speak for all the victims, but I do speak for a large number of them. Not only from the South Armagh area, but we've had phone calls from all over Northern Ireland today who are utterly and totally disgusted with the whole idea of calling this a war and giving an amnesty to these criminals. They're a bunch of terrorists. That's what they were, that's what they are. And even Jerry Adams has stated in the past, on a number of occasions, this is the man who says he was not an IRA man, has stated there can never be peace in Ireland as he's talking about justice. Now, how does he square the circle with that? How can he turn around and justify an amnesty and call this a war if he says there can't be peace without justice? Does that not mean for the ordinary law-abiding citizen? Or is he only talking about for the terrorist thugs who tried to terrorise this community, who did terrorise this community for nearly 40 odd years? Now, the people didn't fear them. The people within Northern Ireland did not fear the IRA. The people in Northern Ireland were let down by the government. The security forces were let down by the government. The IRA could have been dealt with, only the security forces weren't allowed to do it. And now they want to soil the name of the security forces by going that step further and giving the IRA the upper hand by saying they were soldiers. They weren't soldiers. They were a bunch of cutthroats. A man in this area that hung from a tree after stabbing him 59 times. They hung him upside down from a tree and booby-trapped his body. whenever they were walking away, they heard a noise coming from. One of the men went back and lifted him up and run a knife from his ear, one ear to the other ear. Now, is that fighting a war? They left his body booby trapped, so whoever went to let the body down from the tree would have been blew up with a ball. Is that the type of people we're talking about? Or soldiers? The men that they left booby trapped on the roads after they had murdered them, in some cases they hid bombs in under their bodies. So whenever somebody went to lift a body, let it be a loved one or a member of the security forces, it would have blew them and their victim apart. Now, you want to call them people soldiers? Well, I don't know what sort of society our government thinks we can come from, but it's certainly not the one they come from. They're rotten, they're corrupt, and it is time that our politicians stood up and defended the people who defended them, because if they don't, they're no better than the terrorists themselves.